Couching is a fantastic way to play and add beautiful texture to quilts. And you can even create a baby quilt or a kiddie's quilt or a grown-up's quilt for that matter by doing your quilting with your couching yarn straight on. You can even do couching with your robotics. This pick is what Claire and I did at the Oesfeesmark recently with the couching foot, couching yarn, and ProStitcher. So couching is fabulous. Couching is the action of basically applique of yarn to a quilt. Essentially, that's what it is. So it goes along with your normal thread that you have on, your quilting thread, single needle, and you need couching feet specifically for this. It's a foot with a small opening that guides the yarn and keeps it underneath the needle. I've learned a neat little trick while I was in England recently from Liz at Pinnacle Quilting, and that is by adding this little command hook at the back of your machine. See the picture here? So just behind where your needle bar is on your machine, look for a space where you can add this self-adhesive little command hook that is going to help us guide our yarn and keep it in a higher position so it feeds better directly under the needle. And I kind of find that that makes a huge difference. You'll be able to find these on Take-A-Lot. We will have singles available shortly in the shop, but also for our friends outside of SA on Amazon, you'll find 3M command hooks in different sizes. You just need a small one that will stick behind your needle here that you can add your yarn to. So how do we easily get the yarn through the hole? What is important is that the yarn fits the hole of your couching foot snugly. So you want to take your feet with when you go yarn shopping, because not all yarns are equal. And it might look fluffy, but when you squish it or when you pull it apart, you might find that, oh gosh, there's only a thin piece of thread that keeps all of this together. So take your couching foot with so that you can fit your yarn in to make sure it fits. So how do we start? I start with the up-down stitch, bring up my bobbin thread, and I'm just going to 2 or 3 stitches just to secure my thread in place. Then lift your needle. Now you're going to put your yarn from the back. Do you see my hand goes behind the needle, and I'm sticking the yarn in between the needle and the presser foot. In between needle and presser foot. And then I'm hooking it underneath the needle so that I'm pulling on the thread. You see, there's the thread. I'm pulling the yarn on the thread. Now I'm going to do a stitch down. So I'm not stitching through the yarn now. I'm only stitching through my quilt. 1 stitch down, needle up. And now when I hold on to these thread tails and I pull away, do you see that it pops my yarn through the foot? That is the simplest and easiest way to get the yarn through the foot and you ready to quilt. Now I'm going to hook my yarn over the command hook. There we go. And on my right hand side, my yarn is just pooling. So I'm keeping it loose on the quilt, just lying there loosely so there's no undue tension on it here, because then we pull it away from the stitches. Also, I'm going to do my stitches a bit smaller. So I'm up at 14 stitches per inch, and I've got a higher idle speed so that when I'm in the corners and on tight turns, I am sure that there's enough stitches to secure the yarn in place. Now this is not super fast work, this is slow and steady, so take your time. And now we don't have to quilt first or do any stitching first, we can go straight on with our couching, and off we go. That's it. And your thread catches your yarn in place and it will stay there and it will be secured and it cannot come out. And you'll be able to create a lovely soft finish. I'm going to quilt a little bit more for you. I'm just switching my yarn to the other side, and I'm going to keep a little bit of tension on. So different yarns react differently. Mine is creating these clumps, so I'm going to add a tiny bit of pressure, tension by just lightly letting the yarn run through my fingers as well. And then making sure that it's loose. You know, these balls of yarn, they usually unravel not the way you want it. So kind of help it. Now, isn't this cute for a kiddies or a baby quilt? I wish you can feel it. This is a chenille type yarn, and it is so soft and cuddly. And all of my turns have been caught. I can't see my stitching thread because it's sucked into the yarn, and this just looks so much nicer and a little bit different. You'll be able to couch with different yarn thicknesses. We, as Handy Quilter, have got 3 feet in our set with 3 different size openings. And you'll be able to then play with different types of yarn to create either simple quilting, or you can go to the extreme and do some thread sketching and creating art quilts. I hope you'll go give it a try.